Mike giving the first speech tonight. It's going to be a Pathways icebreaker. And then we have Diego acting as grammarian for the evening. And if you can just go over your roles as grammarian for tonight.
All right. As the grammarian, I have the responsibility of keeping track of filler words like so, like. I'm also going to be keeping track of the word of the day, which is languish. And it is a verb to be or become weak or feeble, to droop or fade, to lose vigor and vitality. A good phrase to think of when it comes to language, for example, is to say, to languish in prison for 10 years.
Thank you, Diego. And tonight we have Cody acting as table topics master.
Yes, I will have a set of table topics that I will call on members to answer or get up and talk about. And as our guests, you're more than welcome to volunteer if you feel the urge to. It's a fun experience. I highly recommend that you give it a try. And that'll take place after the speech.
Thank you, Cody. And tonight's general evaluator will be Susan.
And I will be giving a general evaluation of the entire meeting, just letting everyone know, sort of recapping what happened, or what will happen, and what happened.
And our first evaluator will be Lawrence. Yes, we have a timer. Sorry, thank you for checking.
Yep, I'll just evaluate speech. Make sure he gets, and using the new Pathways evaluation program that is very specific in many things, such as eye contact and clarity and so on. It's a very good program. I like it.
Thank you. And for a timer this evening, we have John.
Yes, and I'll be keeping track of all of the time increments of the different speeches and the times that people are up to the podium.
And that covers all the roles, and we'll go ahead and get into the first speech. It's Mike's Pathways Icebreaker Shark Tale from the Competent Communication Manual. So let's go Mike to the lectern.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests. About 10 years ago, this current summer, I went on a vacation trip to Ecuador, to the Pacific coast of South America, and it was a phenomenal trip for so many different reasons. But it got to the part of the trip where it's time to do something exciting, time to really go out of our comfort zone, and what my dad likes to do every time we go on any of these vacations is he loves scuba diving. And we went and we looked for different scuba diving centers that had two requirements. First was that they were going to guarantee that we're going to see some sharks. Because we've been scuba diving before, and we'd go on these shallow reefs, we'd see big fish, we'd see some lovely coral, but my dad was really ready to see the real thing. The second requirement was that this scuba diving center would not care that I wasn't certified. And with that, I mentioned that I had been scuba diving before, but it had always been at what they would call a fish farm. Really easy, 15 to 20 feet deep dives, and there was really not a whole lot to it, and if something went wrong, you could pretty easily get back up to the surface. Well, we were in luck. We found this place called Sharks and Friends. And it was run by this gentleman, Simon. Apologize. It was run by this gentleman, Simon, and his assistant, and neither spoke very great English, but they guaranteed that we'd have the adventure of a lifetime, that we'd have a great time. And so we went out on their small boat out in the Pacific Ocean, and it was a very rocky. It was incredibly wavy, the largest swells I'd ever seen before in my life. And it was a it was a very small boat going up and down, and it felt like we had gone out for hours. Until finally we stopped at what seemed like a complete arbitrary spot, and Simon explained the dive to us on his whiteboard. And the way that he explained it was that we were going to go down 60 to 70 feet, rather deep, and that we were going to swim through this underwater tunnel. And through this tunnel we'd see all these different, different types of coral, different underwater fish that you could almost never see from the surface. So we get down 60 to 70 feet, we're dropping real slowly, and we get down to this tunnel, and I was thinking to myself that, wow, let somebody else go through this tunnel first. I don't want to be the first going anywhere. As we drop down, we see this group of fish swarming right in the middle of the tunnel, and then all of a sudden they scatter everywhere, and we see this silhouette of a shark right on the other side of the tunnel, and it's coming right at us. It's swimming very ominously slowly, and we're simply waiting there and slowly dropping. As I slowly drop, my knee actually scrapes against a small piece of coral and cuts the skin on my knee. I apologize.
This Toastmaster needs to go back.
I apologize. No, so this shark swims right next to us, like coming directly at us, and stops about 5 feet away from where we are. I see this tiny cut on my knee, and I can do nothing but languish in futility, given that there is the definition of a bloodthirsty predator that's 5 feet away from me, and I'm completely helpless in the water. And the way that I remember it was that this was a tiger shark that was perhaps bigger than this table. The way I remember it, it was the biggest thing you could possibly imagine. And I just looked directly at the shark, and you're not supposed to do this, but I certainly wet my wetsuit in that occasion. I was absolutely terrified. Either way, we came back up to the surface. The shark luckily showed mercy. I came back, and all was well, and I escaped my what I consider a near-death experience of complete futility. So this was my icebreaker speech, and I simply just told a somewhat comical, gutsy story about something that happened in my past. And I did this for 2 reasons, and these 2 reasons are that, first off, by telling this story, I was hoping to bring out and express some part of me that you might be able to, infer for yourselves. One of which, a little bit daring, somewhat adventurous. Second, perhaps naive in some situations, admittedly so. And third, that I can look back and I can laugh at tough situations. I think these are 2 very important characteristics that I have. Second, I told this story myself simply because stories have been part of the human language for all mankind. Stories are such a crux to communication. They're so very important to how we remember our past, how we think of our present, and how we plan our future. So in that, I encourage all my Toastmasters and my guest, our guest, to create their own narrative and to make good stories for themselves. So I'll turn it back over to the Toastmaster. Thank you.
Great job.
Good job.
Yeah, I heard today they improved shark fishing off the Faro Pier.
Oh, great.
I can't imagine that. Good job surviving that. So those are speeches for this evening, and we'll bring up Cody for table topics.
So I have a volunteer to start the evenings. Okay, Diego? You always count on you. So this is kind of a little different. It's somewhat of a role play scenario. So this is the first scene. Boat crashes on a deserted island. Pick one of these items to convince the rest of the group to do. Look for food, build a new boat, or take a nap.
Thanks, Cody. My fellow castaway mates, I think the first responsibility before us is to stockpile some food, because without food, we're not going to have energy in order to build a new boat. And it will be important for us to have some food, so that way if we do want to go to sleep, we won't feel bad, we won't feel tired after we wake up from the nap. I'm pretty sure we can stockpile plenty of fruits and vegetables from the local plant life as well, and maybe one of us can go out and hunt for some boar or lizards or whatever creatures exist out there as well. I think after we take care of filling our bellies, then we can start focusing on building the ship. And if we have other people who are too tired and not trained to help us build this boat, then we should focus on letting them sleep next. But I think the first priority, of course, is getting food in our bellies and energy in our stomachs, so that way we can focus on thinking with a clear mind without being worried about, without getting our minds clouded with fear, starvation, and things like that. So my fellow castaway mates, that's why we need to focus on getting food first, and then we can worry about getting off the island. Mr. Tabletop.
Diego's made a compelling speech to go get food.
Thank you.
And luckily, after his speech, everyone sees an animal scurrying through the wilderness. So you have three options: hunt them, ignore them, or catch them for pets. What would you do and why? Any volunteers for this scenario? All right, Lawrence.
Here we are, trapped on a desert island with strange animals walking through the woods. We're not even sure what animal it is, but are we going to languish here and die of starvation? Or are we going to move forward with our desire to have more food so that we can have the energy and the mental capacity to create whatever it is we decide to create? Maybe we'll have to find a way to use old bicycle parts to energize our batteries so that we can listen to the radio, or any kind of interesting thing that might happen. Do we want to hunt this animal? Or maybe it might be a platypus, and we can just follow it around and pick up eggs, and then we'll still have a consistent supply of food. Who knows? But I think we should definitely find out, Mr. Topping.
Who wants to decide on the next scenario? Okay, Rosemary. All right, after you go searching for the lost platypus, it starts to rain. So what do you want to do? Do you want to build a hut, look for a cave, or enjoy the rain and try to collect some of it?
So funny thing is, I actually kind of researched a lot of doomsday scenarios and survival tactics. So this is totally something I absolutely love. I would definitely set up stations or buckets, whatever tools are available on the ship, however we landed on this island. Sorry, I don't remember, it was just too traumatic. And collect as much rainwater as possible. And heck, we can have fun playing in the rain, why not? We never know when water's gonna be coming back again. And who knows, maybe on the other side of the island, we just walk and just get our bearings. Maybe there's a 7-Eleven. Who knows? It could be totally civilized. But for the three options that you laid out, I would definitely make sure that we have water. I would want to do that first and foremost.
All right, Marie. So after you hear a plane. You can either make a smoke signal, jump up and down on the beach, or make a sign with sticks on the beach.
Fellow Toastmasters and honored guests, if I were to perform one of three tasks, either jump up and down, make a fire, or put a sign on the island when a plane goes by, the first thing I thought of is to make a sign. SOS. I remember, if I remember correctly, on Gilligan's Island, there was a similar incident. And I think they were supposed to put SOS, and I think the last S was supposed to be help. Oh, help! Oh, help! Okay, help. Okay, well, okay, he remembers it a different way. Well, I guess I made this up then. I'll do SOS, and somehow the last letter was messed up. That last S became an L, so it was SOL instead of SOS. But I would create a sign, SOS, because jumping up and down, I mean, someone on the plane, the pilot's not going to be able to see you jumping up and down. If there's a fire, well, there's just a fire on the island. So that's what I would do, or else I would just, in the words of Mike, languish in futility. Mr. Topic Master.
Last bone.
All right, I'll do it.
All right. So the SOS sign worked, and you were rescued. What is the first thing you're going to do when you get back home after spending several weeks on the desert island?
Thank you. Fellow Toastmasters, honored guest, Sarah. So if I were stranded on a desert island, for how long was this? Couple of weeks. And I had been as industrious as we all have been talking about. I might decide that after I was rescued and I was back to civilization, I would probably go out to eat a nice big meal, a fancy meal, because obviously we've been eating fruits and vegetables, perhaps a platypus or whatever. We never decided what that animal was. And so I would probably go to some brunch that served all kinds of, possibly I would avoid the king crab legs, having been near the water probably for a while, and maybe that was one of the delicacies that we probably overate. And I would probably visit a lot of friends, because I don't know how many people were with me on the island. That was never established, but I do think that I might have been lonely for a friendly face, for some company. Maybe if I had a dog right now, I don't, but I would spend some time with my animal, because animals are supposed to relieve stressful situations, and I would try to get back into a normal routine. I believe that's what I would do had I been stranded on an island when I returned home. Thank you.
That ends this afternoon's technical topic portion. I will now relinquish the lecture back to our Toastmasters.
Now we will go into the evaluation portion of the meeting. Our general evaluator, Susan.
Here I am again. This evening, we've had a great meeting. We We are a bunch who likes to have fun. We started out the meeting with a recess, and then we went right into nominations. We found out that Diego is going to be the membership, possibly, if he gets voted in next week. I will serve as secretary, and we still need a PR, VP of PR, and a sergeant at arms. We've also been reminded about the International Convention in Chicago, and that's sometime in the fall. Rosemary, we thank you for your time as Toastmaster tonight. Appreciate your service. We heard from Mike, who gave a suspenseful speech about sharks, and we know now that he is a daring and adventurous man. Diego served as grammarian, Cody, table topics master, John, timer, Lawrence used a new evaluation form tonight from Pathways, which we should all visit the new website if we can get on. Table topics, Diego doesn't believe in naps, Lawrence is an animal whisperer, Rosemary is survivalist and a water catcher, Maurice, Gilligan watcher, and I love buffets. And with that, I'll turn it over to the grammarian.
First
Now, you go down.
Oh, sorry, I took it. Not that.
Oh.
Okay, if you go down the list, we can just start with first evaluation, timers, grammarian, just right now.
Okay. We will now hear from our first evaluator, Lawrence, who evaluated Mike's speech.
Thank you. Because this one doesn't have names on it, so I don't know if yours does. Thank you. I think that'll make it easier for her. All right, good evening. As was mentioned, we are using the new Toastmasters evaluation form. One of the small things that seems to be missing here is the last page, which for new people, that's a very valuable piece because it explains what each one of these particular things means for that particular type of thing. So anyways, that's, yes. And that's what that is good for the new people. I've done it before, so I do have some idea what I'm looking at. But I do recommend that for at least for a little while, we try putting that with our evaluations so that the evaluators can get familiar with it. So he did a speech on shark tales. It was quite an interesting speech. I really enjoyed it. I think that he has a very good method of engaging the audience. He is a good storyteller, but the one thing that I think he could do that may want to work on is try to avoid having as much emotion in his speech, because that was a little bit distracting from his speech. And I think that there is a possibility that if you practice it more in front of the mirror, that kind of like comedians, well, I guess not always, but many comedians don't laugh at their own jokes because it's just, you know, it becomes normal for them because they practice it and practice it and practice it. So I think that would be a good thing to work on, is because you do, it seems to me you do a lot of more humorous things in your speaking. So that might be something good for you to work on. I think that he really excels at being comfortable with his speaking ability. And so because of that, I think that he projects himself to the audience. And this is a really valuable thing. Finally, to challenge himself, as far as this speech was concerned, I think that the opening and the closing did not match up. So the opening he gave was very much just starting into his speech, and then the closing was like a totally different speech. It didn't quite smoothly, what do they call it, segun together or something, right? Segue.
Segue,
Yeah,
yes.
didn't segue. Yes, something like that. So I think that I think that if he works on that, it would be a really, really valuable thing. I don't go through this because the new evaluation has a whole section where you can make comments. So all in all, I think that he did a really good job of speaking, and as always, I really look forward to his future speeches. Madam Evaluator.
Now we'll hear from the second evaluator. Who
There was no second speech.
Oh,
So we don't have a second
so
evaluator.
now we'll hear from John. Fine.
I can do that. Maurice, your opening invocation, pledge, and club business lasted 6 minutes and 23 seconds. Rosemary, your initial introduction lasted 2 minutes and 57 seconds. Mike, your speech was 6 minutes and 4 seconds. Rosemary, when you took the lectern again, you were up there for 24 seconds while you introduced Cody. Cody, you took 25 seconds to bring the first question. Diego, your first table topic was 1 minute and 12 seconds. Lawrence, you were 1 minute and 7 seconds on yours. Rosemary, 1 minute and 1 second. Maurice, 1 minute and 50 seconds on yours. And Susan, you were 1 minute and 43 seconds. Let's see, when you returned to the lectern, you were up there for 1 minute and 31 seconds before you introduced Lawrence to give the first evaluation. And you took 3 minutes and 21 seconds to evaluate the speech. And here we are.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Now we'll hear from Diego, the grammarian's report.
Thank you, Susan. Today we've had quite a nice diverse set of crutch words today. Rosemary, your favorite crutch word is and. 4 times, and followed, and just like me, that's also becoming a common thing for me, was 3 times. Diego said and twice, and said once, and I have notes here from Mike saying that I also used pretty, like,
Pretty is in a crutch word in that it didn't really modify the word that you said afterwards.
Gotcha.
I should have remembered what that word was, but it didn't add a whole lot to it.
Gotcha.
Which is difficult in table topics.
Cody, I don't have any crutch words for you. Mike, I have 3 ums, 2 ands, and you've successfully used the word of today. So excellent work on that front. Lawrence, you said so 2 times. The unique crutch word you used this time was you know, but you successfully also used the word of the day, so good job. Susan, your favorite crutch word is said a total of 6 times, and you used the word and. John, I have no indications of crutch words on your part, so great job. Finally, Maurice, I have one time you used the word languish, so excellent work on that. You said once, and I put in quotation marks, you said I would at one occasion, perhaps out of a sense of desperation. And then finally you said so.
All right.
That is the grammarian's report, and I'm going to turn it back to the Madam Evaluator now.
Thank you, Diego. Now we will, I thought I'd already given a general evaluation.
Yeah, you can give it back to her.
Okay, at this time, I will welcome our head Toastmaster, head, whatever you're called. Thank you very much.
With that, do I turn it over to you, Maurice, now for?
You can.
Okay. So we'll turn the lectern over to Maurice.
All right, thank you.
Turn it back over to the first side.
On the special place.
There are no awards tonight, and we do have an educational overview, which will be done by Lawrence.
Here we are. Uh-oh, we don't want to go to Hulu. We don't want to go to Hulu. Woo-hoo-hoo. So until it was too late, or I would have set this up prior to being here. Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, fellow Toastmasters and guests. As was brought to my attention earlier this evening, there are some people that apparently may be having just a tiny bit of difficulty getting into the Pathways program and deciding what they could do. I would like to get some clarification on that if possible. I believe, Susan, you were saying you had difficulty getting in?
I made a little sidearmed comment. It was actually, it was because I could not, it wouldn't recognize me as a member.
Oh, it wouldn't recognize you as a member. So it was not actually the process that was the problem. It was
There was some
Toastmasters
sort of
International.
disconnect, yes.
Is anyone else having difficulties with Pathways in any way, shape, or form? How many of you have logged into Pathways and successfully got in? Oh, awesome, good, awesome, good. Well, if you are interested, going into Pathways is actually fairly easy once you get here, because you just click on the Pathways and then it gives you the opportunity to do what you want to do. So, for instance, if you're new, you could take the assessment. And by taking the assessment, you're going to walk through the system where it asks you a number of questions about who you are and what you hope to get out of your Toastmasters experience. Then, once you have completed the assessment, it will give you different programs, 3 different programs that Toastmasters thinks will fit your goals. Now, you don't have to do those programs because you can go right in and do any of the other programs that are being done. Now, once you have gone, you could go in and choose a path. Okay, so if you wanted to, you could go in and choose a path, and then it will bring you to this section right here. No matter what you do now, when you go into Pathways, this is where it starts. So you go into your Pathways experience. Now, if you belong to more than one club, or anything like that, you can go in here and it will tell you the different clubs or the different groups that you belong to. Now, because I'm a Pathways guide, it has me down for 2 separate things, although I only belong to one club. So if I go in here to Hilltoppers Club, and it will ask me whether I want to change clubs, in this case I will. So it's asking me, do I want to go to Hilltoppers Club? And I can log in as a member. And once I've logged in as a member, it brings me to what they call the home page. Now here on the home page, you have different things that you can do. For instance, if I had given a speech and I got a copy of the speech, I could go into this section here on speech evaluations, and I could go in here and get information on evaluations, or down here to the different things that I could possibly do. And so it shows you all the different programs that are available. Okay, so for instance, if I wanted to create a podcast or a team, let me see, where is it? Active listening, mentoring. I'm looking for icebreaker and I don't see it, so we'll have to do something else. Okay, what was your path?
Mine was motivational something.
Okay, motivational something. Okay, where is that?
It might be motivated. No.
Strategies or something, or?
Can you control F, motivational?
I know the first word was
Motivational.
Okay. All right, motivate others, maybe we'll just call it that, okay? Motivating others. So if I go in here and click on this one, then it gives me all of these different things that I can do. Now, if I decided that I wanted to go in there, I would launch it. And then that's going to give me all of the stuff that would be available in that program. But I'm not going to do that because I got so many things that I've already opened up on mine. Okay? Now this section here on badges shows you the different things that are available. So right now I have 2 badges that have been given to me, one of which was Motivational Strategies was activated, which is probably the one you're doing.
I believe it is.
And another one is somebody sent me a tag saying that I did an exceptional job for something. Okay, and I think that I'm not sure exactly how I find out who did that. I forgot. I'm not going to go into that at this moment. So we'll go back again and I'll show you something else here. Okay, now feedback. So say for instance here that, okay, so this is a lady who gave me my exceptional program here, telling me what they did and so on. So if I wanted to, I could go in here and I could go and maybe give someone else a badge or something like that. Okay? Now, this is the one I would like to go into that we were just talking about. So, for instance, once you have signed up for things, your transcript is going to have everything in it that you've looked at. All right? Now, you can archive these where they don't show up anymore once you have completed them and so on, if you don't want pages and pages of stuff. But some of these things, like the ethical framework, this was just some videos and a little video and some information about ethical framework and some various things like that. Focus, evaluation resources, etc., etc., etc. See, it says mark complete because those are things that have done. Now, if I go in here, for instance, the icebreaker evaluation resource, if I open that up, it pops up, and there's the same evaluation that he has. Now, this is not an editable program when it pops up. You have to open it up in some type of PFD editor, like, yeah, or they Google Pages or something. There's a number of them that you can use, and I'm sure just about everybody's got something like that on your computer. Then, after you have written that up, you can put it in your program, so that you can work with it. So those are the different things. My curriculum. Now when you go in and you open your curriculum. So this is my curriculum for motivational STEP. So right now it says that I'm on level 1. I've completed 5% of this path. All right, you remember there are 5 different levels on each path. Now this is level 1. It's an icebreaker, and then I have to do a valuation of someone else's program, and I also have to do a research and presentation. Now the research and presenting is you do a second speech other than your icebreaker, and then you have somebody evaluate that speech. Then you redo that speech using the evaluation from the first guy, and he evaluates, or she evaluates that program again. So you can see that you've made a certain amount of progress by incorporating the information that was given to you. All right, and then you go into the different levels. So it shows you in level 2, it gives me the information on different things that I would be doing there. And some of these are different things that you do. And then when you get up to level 3, you start doing elective projects. Now, in this particular one, it's got all of these different projects that I could use to pick out for that program. So there's a lot of variety. You don't just do something and be done with it. You have a lot of variety that you can use to come up with anything you want to do. And so it depends on what you like, you know. Do you want to learn about networking, right? You could storytelling, connect with storytelling. So that would improve your storytelling abilities and so on and so forth. Presentation software. One thing, again, here on level 2, there's one thing that I did want to mention that I forgot, is the introduction to mentoring. When you get to level 2, there is an elective program that you can do that I believe is 3 separate sections on mentoring, and where you can learn how to be a good mentor. Because one of the things that many clubs have been lacking in is mentoring new members. So when a new member comes in, theoretically, they are supposed to get a mentor that helps guide them through their pathway or through their Toastmasters experience, minimum of the first 3 speeches. But that hasn't always happened. And of course, although in Toastmasters this has been there forever, since the beginning, there is not really that much resources for mentors to know what they need to do. Now, the interesting thing about this is the first section that they want you to do in level 2 is basic mentoring. But by the time you get to the 3rd section of the mentoring program, it's talking about mentoring in the real world. You are in your business and you've got some new person that comes in your business. How can you mentor them, help them to become the best at that business? So it really does move forward quite substantially. Let's skip back over to the 4. Again, it goes through different things. You now have another elective program that has to be done. So that's 2 elective programs. And then you have level 5, where you have another elective programs, and you're doing more things together. So if you complete 2 full programs and do something similar to a high-performance leadership project, then you can become a distinguished Toastmaster. And part of that includes becoming involved as an officer in the club, and also a regional or area regional or some other type of officer outside of your club, overseeing other clubs or the region or whatever. So it is a very comprehensive program helping you to become the best leader, the best person that you can be. And again, this is just motivational strategies. If you went into a different program because you wanted to be a dynamic speaker, or you wanted to go into a leadership program instead of motivational, they have those available. Like I say, there are 10 programs that you can get into, Now, the one thing that a lot of people miss out on is the tutorials. And because, oh, I gotta wrap it up, but just to give you an idea, these are your tutorials. Lots and lots and lots of information for you to be able to do the best that you can do and to learn how to achieve the most that you can achieve in your Toastmasters
Speed
experience.
reading one of those?
Like Instagram, never
It's on and on and on. All right?
Okay.
Mr. President.
Okay, for the next minute or so, I'll have Cody do the VP education.
Any volunteers for next week on rolls?
I will, you can put me down for a speech.
All right.
You can put me down for grammarian.
And I'll do table topics.
And then evaluating.
And remember, go to your competent leadership book and just keep track of your roles, because that adds up towards your CL award.
Yes, you can do both at the same time. I'm still doing both.
And you can go to Easy Speak too, over the last several, weeks and months that you've done a role, and then you can find out what role you performed, and then you can write that down in the back of your,
It's the very back of the competent
Competent
leadership.
leadership.
I haven't done a great job personally, but this is all from really my last club where
It records it in Easy Speak too.
it does, yeah. So
Easy Speak, Easy Speak will help
So
you out.
they've got Toastmaster, Timer, Grammarian, they've got everything, and then the VP. Once you do project one, I got the Vice President of Education sign off, and so I've done one project out of 10. Not great, but
So you can go into,
I'll verify, so
Online.
I'll go in like for our meeting agenda, I'll put you in for your general evaluator.
okay,
Verify
so
it.
somewhere online, I can go in and find your,
Yeah, on Easy Speak.
yeah.
not Easy Speak.
Okay, if there's nothing else, this meeting is adjourned, 7:45.
All right.
It's a lot. They're very active up there, so you're going to find,
Program.